Because a lot of times we think our reality is based on what tools we use to measure the reality. Welcome.
Welcome back, man. We back.
Thank y'all for joining another episode of
Tune the Fort. Yes, sir.
I'm James.
I'm Life.
And we are here.
Yep. Again, shout out to everybody that's listening, man. Been getting a lot of good feedback, so appreciate y'all. Y'all feedback really helped move us forward, so we appreciate it.
Yeah. We were scheduled to talk about something completely different today.
Yeah.
And I think you posted a video of Roxanne Shante talking about DMX and him and like her relationship with him and some pieces of his story that he shared with her, and it was extremely moving, man. And she talked about him and foster care and what she's been going through and just how we generally look at people from afar and judge them in so many ways without really fully understanding their story. And it really, seeing it, man, just triggered me, and it made me want to talk about not just DMX per se,
right,
but what he represents in terms of this figure, this person that is elevated and that is scrutinized and appreciated in so many different ways, and how for good things, and then I don't really know how to describe it necessarily, but it's this idea of putting a person who is struggling, who is battling, who's tormented in all of these ways, and good art, passion, inspiration comes from that portion of it, but that can also be energy that leads to, destructive paths, because we talk a lot about how a lot of the shit that we're carrying around has been from decades. And when Roxanne was talking about how his mom just left him, and didn't really know at the foster care or whatever, and the trauma that would have, and the things that as a boy you would have to do to survive that, and the underdevelopment, and the areas of underdevelopment that you experience and have to manage through life. Now, some of that shit comes out in vibrato, and some of it comes out in fear, neglect, not only to your people, but to yourself. But you got these people saying, hey, you're great, you're awesome, but you still feel alienated from those people?
Yeah, it's wild, man. Just to recap, so like he said, Roxanne Shante, who I think she's like a clinical...
I think she does some type of social work type stuff.
Yeah, some social work or something. But she also radio, she was MC, Roxanne Shante, and she's also a radio personality. But she was talking about DMX, and she said that she didn't really know him well, but she said that, just in their interactions, or when they met, or when they started to sort of talk, how they recognized some of the same things that they've been through in each other. And she was saying how his mother dropped him off at, I don't know if it was a group home or some kind of foster care or something, and said that they were just visiting and left him. And how at that age, how it's impossible to A, process that, and B, come out of that without any help in any sort of whole way. So, it's almost like that he wasn't even given a chance, and the fact that he was able to become an artist from that is its own thing amazing. And she said she'd been through the same thing, and for her too to come out as someone who can express those things is divine. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that, because, you know, for every DMX, there are a million Earl Simmons floating around in our families and our lives that we see on the street, and we don't really give them the same reverence because they're not rappers or artists or whatever they are. So
that's a good point.
So yeah, man. So just, and that touched me too, man, in the sense that we look at these people, and I think what you were what you said about him, it's just their struggles are public. Their struggles are for the world to look at and judge and ridicule and laugh at, which causes more. You're already coming in this thing with a level of anxiety and fear and shame and all that. But then once that is public and then everybody has something to say about it, then that just makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
So you never really come out of, and the other deep thing that she said, man, was that that she was what she called a check kid, meaning that foster parents would take these kids in because the state pays them to foster these kids. So they would just only take them in because they were getting money. So they would treat them any old kind of way to get that check. So now as she also said, I really want to point out, is that all of them aren't like that. There's a lot of great foster parents. There's a lot of people who are doing great things in the foster system, but like any system, there are other things too. So she was saying, as she moved, understanding that, as she moved into the entertainment industry, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
The only reason why you're around is because you're a commodity, something that they can something that they can make money from. So that, all of those things put together, man, causes or can fester an already growing hurt and torture and pain into whatever the addiction is. And again, none of this is new. So when I thought about it, man, I was like, he's the same as Kurt Cobain. He's the same as Jimi Hendrix. He's the same as Charlie Parker. He's the same as Coltrane. He's the same as, all these people are dealing with these, and I don't like to call them demons, but it's pain and it's holes and it's hurt that they never really figure out how to maneuver through, and they just, medicate. And I think we all on some level do it.
And we live in a world that promotes us judging people based on action.
Yep.
So a lot of the value is performance based.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to when we were having the conversation, I think you can do something and not be that thing.
Right.
Because a lot of the things that we're doing, we're not that.
Yeah.
But it's a feeling or an emotion that is actually coming up in a non-productive, non-constructive, defensive, whatever the way is.
Yeah.
It's a survival technique.
That's right.
A coping mechanism.
Yep.
And even though that action might not necessarily reflect the truth of who we are, it might reflect the damage that we're trying to pair.
Yep.
Or a struggle that we're attempting to reconcile somehow, some way.
Yeah.
But if you doing this wild shit, if you selling dope, you just a dope seller.
That's
you
right.
have no value or low value.
Yep.
If you're out sleeping with woman after woman, lying, deceiving, then you a ain't shit motherfucker, and you deserve to be put over here.
Yeah.
If you not taking care of your kids and out smoking crack and doing drugs, it's because you care about that stuff more than you do that person.
Yeah.
And it's all reducing us down to a set of actions.
Yep.
And I get really...
That's deep.
I was watching the interview with Marvin Gaye, dude, and he was talking about how he just feels so deeply for humanity. Yeah. And it causes him to get depressed. Yeah. And sometimes when I heard him say that, I was like, I feel that way. Yeah. Because I feel so deeply and strongly about for the pain that we're suffering from as people. And I think that pain comes from a feeling of disconnectedness. Like a lie that we've been sold that we're not enough and that we are disconnected from everything around us, and we have to be in a perpetual state of survival.
Yeah, that is it. That dog. You hit around the head, dog. Yeah, and it's not anything that happens overnight. It's years and years and years of developing that feeling of that voice telling you that. And then a lot of times people float around and will do anything to silence that voice, to anything. And she also spoke about peace and finding peace. And it was deep because she said that she doesn't smoke or drink or do drugs because she is afraid that she would find peace in that. And that's deep because, those voices, man, they float around and they fester and they rot and they're poison. And you tell yourself every day the same things over and over again. And you, like you said, you end up isolating yourself. You end up feeling like that you're the only one that feels this way. You're ashamed of it. It's so much. And until you do anything, you come outside of yourself completely to do anything for that moment of peace, that small, short time of peace. And I think these cats, like Marvin and come on, it's a long list of them. I think they personify that in a great way because they were able to express that, right? A lot of us exist with it in our heads. We can't express it other than destructive ways, right? And I'm pretty sure people who express it in constructive ways, right? I'm sure they exist. But a lot of us express it in such destructive ways. To hear it expressed in such beautiful ways is, I don't know what it is. Like it reveals it. It hurts more, but it also soothes it in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's heavy. I ain't never thought, but that's heavy.
It does soothe it, man. And I'm concerned about, so like when I look at somebody like DMX, right, or Marvin Gaye, or anybody, the first thing I want to do is to understand. And a part of that, I think, for me, is about removing me out of the conversation as much as possible. Because because that gives me an opportunity to try to look at that thing as clearly as possible.
Right.
And then add me to look to see commonality.
Right.
Comparison.
Empathy. Yes, sir.
Which ultimately leads to that. Because if everything we're doing, even the whole concept about being a man and all of these things, and in many ways it's a performance-based thing. It's saying, what can you do? What are you doing? If you're doing these things, I'm a man, I take care of my kids, I could provide for them. Like things, actions. So everything is based on that. How do you know your woman love me? Because she, cooks. Or, how do you know your man loves you? Because he pays the, it's these. So all of it is, everything has to be reduced. So if we're constantly evaluating the landscape from a performance-based lens, then we miss the opportunity, because a lot of us don't know why we do what we do. We haven't taken the time to actually sit with it to understand, because God forbid we share any part of our truth, we're going to get scrutinized. It's like when you have a conversation with somebody and you sit down and say, hey, tell me why you do that. And they'd be like, Oh, because I don't feel like you love me. Fuck you mean you don't feel like I love you? Everything I do for you, and you blow up and then you want to go back in. You really want to get to a deeper truth that you may have.
Yeah.
But that surface level truth prevented you from, now that's not a safe space, right?
Right.
So you go in.
Right. Yep.
But how do we get to the point to start seeing the deeper truth of the world that we live in and that we participate in and the other people who participate in it? Because I don't want to live in a world, bro, where somebody like I'm close with can be suffering like that, man. And I don't do my part to create the space for that brother or that sister, man, to be open.
Yeah.
And I know, because to even be there for somebody in that way, man, helps me heal. So even with the Roxanne Shante piece, and she was saying, I don't want to find peace there. I found peace in alcohol, dog.
Right.
Now I find peace in other things and trying to be of service to people.
Yeah.
And so I've got to take out the idea, I've got to remove the notion that who you are is what you do. It can be a reflection.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to always be.
Yeah.
And in the same way that we're not what we do.
Right. Right.
And I know that it goes counter, man, but we've got to leave room. If a woman is sitting back and sleeping with dude after dude after dude after dude, is she a hoe or is she in pain?
Yeah.
And what position would best suit her to move from?
Yeah.
Because it would be, most of us will call that woman a hoe. Most of us will call that dude, because the dude could be doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We're going to call him a player. It's going to be a more positive label for the dude, because that's the fucked up shit that we in, right?
Yeah.
But we still not seeing him. That brother could not love his mom could not love him. He could be having abandonment issues. He could be feeling all kind of shit.
Yeah.
But because we've set a value for that action as a thing, we're not really getting to the root of it.
That's deep, because it's the same torment. It's the same pain.
It's the same torment.
That's
it's
crazy.
just showing up in a different way.
Well, it's showing up in the same way.
Yeah,
but it's just viewed.
Yeah, viewed. That's a good point.
That's
a good point.
That's deep. And also, so to that, man, we can't even. And part of that question is, how do we see ourselves that way? How do we understand the shit that we do as part of that? As what the truth is to, because we think of ourselves as whatever we do. Like if we out here doing whatever, that's what we think. You know what I'm saying? We taking care of our kids. We're not taking care. Whatever it is, that's what we consider ourselves. But when do we, like you just said, take a seat and really analyze and sit with what we've been through and what that torment and that pain is that drives those destructive behaviors, right? I don't even know how do we, and I think it starts there, because like we said 3 or 4 episodes ago, when we talking about our fathers, and you talk about your father, and when you sat in that car and you said, I got it, like you got it because you recognize yourself in, or what you've gone through and what he was currently going through, an expression to you. You know what I'm saying? It starts because we walk around and we live in this judge space because we don't see our own, we don't want to look at our own flaws. We don't want to look at the fucked up shit that we come from and interact with and the destructive behaviors that we do, because that's too much. Yeah. But we would rather sit in a space and be like, oh yeah, well he didn't, and he shoulda, and that motherfucker, he ain't nothing but a, you know what I'm saying? That's what we exist, dog. Once we start to say, hey man, I got my own shit. I know that I've done X, Y, and Z. I know that I've been in places and spaces and things, doing shit that I know was destructive to me. Bro, I know what you're going through. I know what you're feeling. I know what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? And then that'll open, like you just said, that'll open up them feeling like that they can then have a conversation with you. Because it's not from a place of judgment, it's from a place of understanding. And that's hard as shit, because that requires everybody involved to recognize their own humanity.
Bro, from a time we were kids.
Yeah.
It's all performance based.
Yeah.
And then you've gotta, because all of it I think is a lack of, we live in an infinite motherfucking universe. God has given us everything we need to survive.
Yep.
The concept of scarcity is an illusion that is used to control people and to make them feel inadequate.
Yep.
So there is a constant state of fear to compete for limited resources. And then we will judge the actions that we engage in to compete for the limited resources. And certain actions have higher value. We all starting being born by a parent who is teaching us relatively the same codes. And to see and to perceive the world in the same ways. And what we're saying now basically is there's a reprogramming that has to take place that causes you to see the reality of yourself and the world. And that's not going to be an easy thing to do.
Not.
And to even move from that type of orientation makes you look wild, because it's not a normal thing. It's like everybody thinks they should hate. Everybody thinks they should not forgive. Everybody thinks they got to do right all the goddamn time. Everybody thinks that they are what they do. Everybody is putting value in these superficial things. Everybody's avoiding doing the work.
Everybody's everybody else's judge.
Everybody else's judge.
And
everybody got the answer and nobody else does. And so if to even ponder I'm wrong. Regardless of how right I feel. It's some wild shit. In a world where you're being told to fight for what the fuck you believe in. Maybe the game is listening to what somebody else believe in. But that ain't what we even being taught. Because again, listening is an act that's not valued high. Because you ain't talking about you or no shit that it is you doing. You go into a room, man, and it's a bunch of motherfuckers talking. If you didn't have on no fly shit, if you didn't say shit, how they gonna know who you are? And if you don't know who you are, or your value is put up in what's in between your ears and what's in between your legs and what's on your body, you gotta do something. You can't just be in that motherfucker and just be. So, but being should be enough. And creating space for people to let go of the past and the things that they have done so that they can be in a position to just be. Look, because there's healing there.
And we don't, dog, because we come up and like you said, it's performance based. So that's all through school. There's no space in there. And dog, and we all know this, our parents, they did the same thing. They came up in the same spaces, same ideas and ideals, same cultural, you know what I mean? There's a stigma to anytime that you feel a way that ain't, getting over it, ain't moving through it, or ain't, powering through it, then there's a stigma attached to that. So you're always taught to man up. You're always taught to, this is what a man does. You know what I'm saying? You're always, even girls, man, they're taught that they have to take care of shit, even when, no matter how old they are. I've known some girls that have older brother siblings, but they have to take care of them. They're seen as the person that takes care of them, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not the, so we all come up in that space, and it's hard. You're right. There has to be a change, but there has to be a change in how we approach these things, but it happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know people, we've been people who had a shift in how we move throughout this shit. So it's out there to happen, but it's almost like it has to happen to everybody in their own way. There's not a cultural shift to do it. It's not a popular thing that let me go ahead and take a second and reflect on my own truths, you know what I'm saying, before I judge somebody on where they are right now. And that's, I mean, but school, everything is based on, you know, you following the rules. And the rules say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything that deviates from that, then you are immediately ostracized. So instead of being ostracized, what you do is you don't say nothing. You let it sit inside of you. Shit, we talking 3rd, 4th grade. Mm-hmm. You let it fester inside of you, and that grows and it grows and it grows, and then you see everything through that lens. And then you end up being the adult that does the destructive behaviors.
And when you look at DMX's story, bro, like, to me, he is the epitome of like from a persona, like just the man, dog. Like, you get a sense that he's tough. And that he handles shit. Yeah. And, you know, and when you look at his story and the idea of the number of instances in his life where he was failed.
Exactly.
And yeah. Everybody's doing the best that they can along the way, right? Yeah. There's no, and this is what I mean, like, we live in a society where we are all to blame. Yep. No one is absolved.
Yeah, I thought about that the other day. You're absolutely 100% right, dog.
Everybody's guilty, bro. Yep. Everybody's guilty.
Yep.
If you were living in this motherfucker and you ain't got a foster child, you guilty.
Right. You're right.
I ain't saying you wrong. I'm just like, everybody is participating in perpetuating directly or indirectly someone's pain.
And the flip side of that is everybody has a part to play in making this shit different.
Yes. And even when you're doing your best, we still, there are benefits from it.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And so, observing the number of times that man has been failed, and then observing the number of times that we as individuals have been failed, and then number of times that we have failed, there are so many opportunities to learn and to move forward if you take the time to just observe. Because again, like, that man was not made in a test tube.
Nope.
Our lives are not made in a test tube.
Nope. And he is not a one-off.
Not a one-off. and how many more times do we want to consume these people's spirits?
Yep.
And benefit from them in ways that we don't at least take our benefits from it?
Yeah.
And use it to do something different in our lives, in our individual lives.
Right.
That don't mean, like, the dude is putting himself out there to be consumed.
Right.
That's clean.
Right.
Consume it.
Right.
But any food that you digest, what are you going to use that energy for? Are you going to use it for destruction, or are you going to use it to do something positive?
Yeah. And knowing what his struggles were, and consuming that, you know, I think, and we're talking about how to move forward, how to change the algorithm and how we interact in that way. Knowing his struggles, you might not be able to directly help him, but you can probably directly help somebody or something in some situations, even if it's being there, being empathetic and sympathetic and an ear for somebody in your life. You know what I'm saying?
It may be most of these people, when they're these artists, I feel like when Marvin Gaye said, the artist pays the price, so you don't have to pay.
Right.
So even if you lead to forgiving yourself, even if you lead to not being so judgmental of yourself, that is work. That is a part of it. But just to sit back, because I think we've got to start taking responsibility for our exploitation of things.
Yeah, that's
we
deep.
are exploiting
That's deep.
a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what that word means. Put a pin in that. Let's talk about what that word exploit means. Because that's a deep ass word, dog. Are you saying, in terms of how you're using it, is that we just take from it and not give anything? Like we just are consuming it, but we aren't really, like you said, eating it and using that energy for anything other than just consuming it.
Yeah. That might not be with Webster.
Right. But for
the purpose of this conversation, it is using something for personal benefit.
Yeah.
And if a public figure, and now personal benefit could be an end result to a community-based thing.
Right.
But this is an exchange of energy. Right. So if we're getting, like, these people are exposing themselves, and they're making money and all of that.
Yeah.
They're benefiting in their way.
Yeah.
Because they could also be exploiting a portion of it.
Yeah.
So, but that has to be, that's their piece of it I'm speaking from the individual to the art and to the environment around you. The artist could also be the individual.
Right.
But for the purpose of this conversation, if you're taking that and just consuming it for personal gain, it's like people in the industry. There are rappers who are exploiting the culture. They're not putting nothing back.
Nah.
To me, that's exploiting.
Okay. That's clean.
So
that's clean.
We have a responsibility to something bigger than just our own carnal desires.
Yeah, you said that. We said that a while ago. But yeah, go ahead.
We just do.
Yeah.
Because if we're connected to everything, and everything that we do matters, then that means that we have a responsibility. If you were a leg in a body and you just felt like chilling today, but you need to get up to go get some food,
right.
You being the leg got to get your ass up.
Right.
Because the whole body needs to eat.
Yeah. Right.
Now, if you were just a loner of one leg, then you cool. Die.
Right.
We have a larger responsibility that I don't think, and a lot of it is put in this grandiose, large context, and it's just really small ways of just being more present and giving back. And we've got to start seeing these artists, these people, as something more than just to exploit. I really do see it as a form of exploitation, because the system exploited him when he was younger.
Yeah.
The parents who was just doing it for a check, they were exploiting the system.
Yep. And exploiting him.
And exploiting, and ultimate, him.
Yep. Yeah, that's heavy, man, because we are in this society, in a lot of ways, consumers, and that's all we are. We consume. We don't, like, when we watch screens, whether it's TV, social media, whatever it is, we are consuming whatever it is in there. We aren't looking, we aren't doing that thing to then take that information and do something with it. We are literally just consuming it. And then, and that's it. We don't really, like, think about before there was those things, TV, social media, all that. We would get information and we would be able to use that information for something. Like that was the bulk of our existence. We, you know, read books or whatever and told stories or whatever else we did. But the bulk of our existence was receiving information to then use in a way to help someone, to help the community, to play our part, whatever the case is. But now we are consumers. And that shit just, whether it's artists, whether it's, you know, any kind of medium, music, television, movies, all that shit, we just consume it. So you're right, we don't get a sense that we are obligated to do anything because it's like everything is presented to us to consume and that's it. Like that's the extent of our existence. We don't, 90% of the information that we see in these mediums, we don't use it for anything other than just to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't take it and then say, oh, I got this. Okay, let me go do this. Or that was cool. I like what he did. Let me go and do this. Or damn, that's fucked up. What happened to her? Let me go and help someone. You know what I'm saying? That made me see things differently. Let me go. Nah, man, we just consume. So we would have to change that idea to what you're saying is that when these artists are giving us their soul and their existence, it should drive us to want to do something.
And I think some of us, when we do use it, we probably use it for non-constructive means.
Yeah.
Because like even when we go to the club, bro, and they dance, and we'll get the energy popping, we'll dance, we'll pop bottles, we'll use it to gyrate and twerk. I mean, that's doing something. But it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want to be clear that I don't feel like I'm clear on what I am actually saying, bro.
I want to be clear that I don't feel like I'm clear.
I feel really sad at how disconnected I feel we are from one another.
Yeah.
And hearing Roxanne's story and DMX and listening to him, man, and having me reflect back on things, even when what we were originally going to be talking about today, that's a form of being disconnected.
Yeah.
And and loving, and we are going to talk about that because I think it's definitely worth it. But we've got to start finding ways to see ourselves in other things, man.
That's the key.
And all things around us. And I don't know how individuals do that, but I know that I do it with just trying to be of service, man, and just trying to listen more. We've got way more in common than we do different.
That's absolutely true.
And
that's absolutely true.
And for us to continue to walk around and judge people, even with the dude who cheated on this girl, he might have some shit. Like everybody got some shit.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Even the biggest hypocrites.
Even the biggest hypocrites. Yeah. But can you, either God is everywhere or he ain't.
Right.
Either he's everywhere or he isn't.
That's clean.
So are we going to say he is or are we going to say he isn't?
Right.
I am under the belief that he is.
Right.
She is.
Right.
It is. Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And if that is the case, I am going to do my level best to find it. Yeah. Not find it, to see it.
To see
it's there.
It's there. Yep.
And so if I can't, because a lot of times we think our reality is based on what tools we use to measure the reality.
Yeah.
So I can see, I can hear, I can taste, I can touch.
Yeah.
And what's the other one?
Smell.
And so if I can't do it with one of them five,
right,
I'd be like, okay, it ain't in my reality.
Right.
But Think about the spectrum of light. You can only see a fucking small percentage of it.
Yep.
You know how much shit is in this room that we can't see?
Yep.
That is just as real as the shit that we can see?
Yeah. Sound too.
Sound too.
Smell, everything.
So, yeah, the cat can smell shit probably 2 blocks away.
Yep.
Why be so arrogant to think that we know motherfucking people in every single way, shape, or form? Yeah. You see a person do one thing, bro, and I'm sorry for getting, because it bothers me, man, because this is how we're doing everything.
Yeah.
Think of how much we know or we feel we know about some person because you hear they cheated, or because you hear they didn't pay their taxes, or because you heard that they doing drugs or they didn't take care of their kids. 2, 3, 4, 5 things. You got that motherfucker pegged. You read the whole book, you done, and then boom, you moving on to some other shit. That cannot be how we are judging and evaluating human beings.
And the deep shit is, a lot of times, how we are evaluating, a lot of times we evaluate, but mainly we just listen to what other motherfuckers tell us we should think about this motherfucker. So if everybody's upset because he did this, then that's what we'd be upset too. We don't take time to make an evaluation. We just see the shit and everybody else, okay, I'm gonna be mad too. If it fits into whatever we deem or whatever everybody else feels like is the wrong thing to do, you know what I'm saying, we will. But if somebody else does the same behavior, we don't look at it the same way. You know what I'm saying? It's just all in how someone tells us to think, how the world tells us to think. And we don't take time to evaluate for ourselves based on our own humanity, you know what I'm saying, frailties, flaws, and shortcomings, and B, a level of empathy about what could possibly have happened to this person before or at any point in their lives to put them in the position they are today. What could have been the thing that moved them into this space, right? That's not how we operate. And again, dog, this comes from years of us living in these judgment spaces, and this is how we judge ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We criticize and judge ourselves in the same immediate way. Like, we don't say, damn, I fucked up, but it's because, you know, I've been through, or I need to forgive, you know, whatever it is, because I've been through some shit, or this happened, or I need to understand why this shit happens. We don't approach it that way. We are immediate judgment and immediate punishment. That's who we are.
We got to decide what kind of world we want to live in, man.
For sure.
And we got to decide what we're willing to do to create that world. And that motherfucker ain't gonna create itself.
That's right.
And if you're walking around and you waiting for other people to do something, then you are a part of the problem.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
No way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And
so, if you feel the world is fucked up, do something about it.
Yeah. And again, dog, it ain't gotta be, no, you ain't gotta motherfucker discover a cure for cancer. It could be reaching out to your friend and being there and being someone that they can talk to and creating spaces where that friend of yours can have conversations about what they're going through and what they've gone through. And you never know, that might open up something that you can, you know what I'm saying, creating spaces might open up a space for you to be able to have those conversations back. And y'all can understand that you're not alone and you're not isolated. Everybody goes through shit, you know what I'm saying? But we need to create these connections to each other in these spaces where where we can have those conversations.
I'm trying to understand, man, why I'm so upset right now, bro.
Because probably that you felt like me the same goddamn way. Like you felt that, well, for me, I don't know for you, dog, but for me, I felt that level of criticism and for myself that I do to myself. And I recognize it in the world. You know what I'm saying? And it's hurtful and it's harmful and you know. And it's destructive, dog, and it's poisonous.
And I think it's the pain that people experience from being disconnected, man.
Yep.
Like I remember reading a book somewhere, I don't know if it's in the Bible or whatever, but they were talking about hell is just really the absence of love.
Yeah.
And it's not a place as much as it is a state of being.
Yep.
And when I look at the world that had to exist for a mom to drop her kid off like that, bro. Yeah. When I look at the kind of world that had to exist for DMX to be DMX. Yeah. There's so much disconnection that has to exist. Yeah. And so much pain that has to be created and perpetuated for that. Now, I'm not saying good isn't being, I'm not saying nothing good is coming from it either. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, the pain piece is something that, unfortunately, I feel like I'm focusing more on.
Because that's what does the damage. The pain is what, those traumatic events is what festers and does the damage, because we don't know how to release those traumatic, we don't know how to heal from those traumatic events. So we just harbor them shits and we attach more traumatic events to them. And that is the poison that turns, that drives you to destructive behavior. Even if that's the same pain that drives you to beautiful works of art, it's the same pain that's going to drive you, that's going to want to soothe itself some way, and that destructive behavior and paralleled with those beautiful works of art happen. Yeah. And they're beautiful. I mean, dog, DMX said some incredible things, you know what I'm saying, in his music. Some shit that nobody else has said, nobody else conceptually has voiced, right? I don't know too many artists that have done that. Like, nobody else has said the things that he said. No one else has approached his art the way he approached it. Nobody. Before, since. You know what I'm saying? So, but that beauty is parallel with that torment, man. And that's why. And we talked about Marvin, the same thing. Shit, go down the list. Cobain, Hendrix, Joplin, it goes, Billie Holiday goes all the way down the line.
I think we touched on a bunch of shit.
Yeah, we did. But to put a cap on it, dog, and I think that you hit it right on the head, man. We have to do more than just repost a meme of a person that we admire that's either in trouble, sick, or passed. We have to create a world, our own world, that is sympathetic and empathetic to the things that are going on to the people in our lives, right? Whether they're artists, whether they're just regular uncles, whether your brother, whatever it is, your friend, creating an environment where, or whatever else you want to do, creating being of service to something and someone is the greatest way to if you want to pay homage, if you want to show them this person that you care, you want to do whatever, that's the best way to do it. And that's how you create a different world.
Yeah. I think that's very well said, bro. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, man, I'm just moved by the brother's life, man, and just all the other brothers' lives who will never know who this system is just spitting out, man, and just using and just
America eats their young, man.
Eat their young, bro. And we encourage it and promote it and just we give energy to it, and that's the piece, man, that
we're entertained by it. That's the deep shit.
Yeah. And so, like Life said, man, exploitation is just taking and not using it for something constructive for somebody else.
Yep.
And if you can, and it's all just energy, man.
It all is. That's right.
It's all just energy. And what are you doing with the energy that you're getting from other people?
Yep.
And are you seeing yourself in the energy that you're getting from other people? Because you're all connected to it. Like, there's a reason why we connect to X's music, bro.
Yep.
Why do we have to know the specifics about his life?
Right.
To know that brother was in pain.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
And so, can that be the gateway to grace, to understanding, and to empathy? The feeling? It ain't one of the five senses, but we connected.
Yeah.
And so maybe when we see him wilding out, do we gotta know that he was in foster care, man, to know that he was suffering? And is that and that might not be everybody's form of suffering, but you can't make that shit, bro, and not be tapped into something very specific.
Right.
And so maybe we got to find new ways of seeing and connecting with people other than just their actions.
Yep.
And you, even though you won't be able to do that with DMX or Jay-Z or whoever the fuck,
right,
you can do it with somebody at your house.
Exactly.
You can do it with yourself.
Exactly.
You can do it with your kids. You can do it with use that energy.
Yep.
And that you get from these performers for something constructive.
Yep.
Don't just take.
Yep.
And you can use it to see things and people different.
Yeah.
I'll shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you're right, dog. Even in everything that he says, in all of his music, man, even all of the heavy shit that he's put into his music, man, it applies to us in our real lives. It's not nothing that I think that's why we connect to him. Nothing that he says that a lot of us cannot find a connection to in our own lives.
It's just real.
Exactly. Nothing. So even like if it's not you, it's someone who you know, somebody who you're close to. And if you don't, it might be a person that you know and you're close to that has never said it. So once you start creating environments for people to feel like that they are safe to have these conversations with you, man, then you start to empathize, and you see it, and you see the DMX in, you know what I'm saying, and a motherfucker who you talk to every day.
Yeah, he is X.
Exactly.
And the foster mom and dad, who was just getting a check, we heard too.
Yep, that's heavy. That's heavy.
Which one you want to be?
That's heavy. You're right. It's all the same. But you're right. We are so disconnected that we don't feel like that we are those things.
Because they was probably just as much in pain.
That's clean.
You know what I'm saying, dog? Like the shit just.
Yes. Yes. For you to inflict pain on that level on someone, a child, you have to be in a certain level of pain yourself. Or you have to recognize that from your own past.
You got to be so disconnected, bro.
Right.
Like it's almost like, because to me that's a form of being dead.
Yep.
Like disconnected.
Yep.
Like anything that's disconnected just doesn't, like what pops up into my head is just something that's not alive.
That's right. Like the leg thing you said. If it's not connected,
motherfucker can't live.
It can't live.
So there's just so much loss of life and loss of recognition of life from being disconnected from things. And that, and now with individuality and the concept of that is just, it exacerbates it and it just makes everything just based on individualism and doing what's best for you and, you know, looking to the left or to the right is some weak shit. Even when you hear people talk about the concept of socialism, like it's just like anyway, I don't want to go down a whole nother tangent, bro. But
that's deep because, but here's the weird shit though. We think that shit is being individuals, but we're doing what other motherfuckers tell us to do. How to be an individual is based on how somebody tell us to be an individual. We're not, but we don't come to that shit in our own minds.
But right. So
we come to that shit by somebody telling us.
The individualism is about everything but personal responsibility. So if you do some other shit, it's environmental. It's if you dress in a certain way, like the idea of individuality is up only to a certain point.
Right.
After that, and we make justifications for when we use the concept. So like individualism makes all the sense in the world when I want to borrow $20.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if you need to borrow $20, come on, man, we supposed to be brothers. You see what I mean? So it just depends on what side of the coin you on for that day, on how much you care about individualism.
For that day, you're right, dog. For that day, because that shit switch. Yeah, that shit switch. That's crazy, man. Love somebody, man.
Yeah.
Be there for somebody, man. Talk and like we said this 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000, but
at least 16.
Yeah, at least 16. It ain't gotta be you ain't gotta solve their problems. Sometimes you just gotta be an ear, dog. Just a space for them to be able to talk and talk through some shit and come to their own truth and be in their truth with you.
Appreciate you, bro.